At the end of the day, the only people that really matter about your movie are the people who are going to watch it, otherwise known as the audience. A lot of distributors are going to not be interested. They're going to reject you. They're going to ghost you. A lot of agents aren't going to talk to you, even a lot of filmmakers. But don't worry about it, because if you can get the attention of the audience, that's what matters. And that's what we're going to talk about today. If you want to be a successful indie filmmaker, you need to know a lot about not just the production of movies, but the business. We are going to tell you the truth and reality of what really happens in the indie film business. Welcome back to Indie Filmmaking Truth and Reality. I'm your host, Jeff Deverett, and I'm very excited to talk to you today about audience. Because at the end of the day, audience is really who you're after. It's the people who are going to watch, hopefully enjoy, and hopefully pay for your film. But that's what this is all about. Filmmaking is all about trying to attract an audience who is going to enjoy your film and hopefully, like I say, pay for it. This is all tied to distribution. And, I talk a lot about distribution and marketing, which is distribution is releasing your movie to make it accessible to audiences. And marketing is creating audience awareness, getting the attention of people who hopefully will watch your movie. That's what distribution and marketing is. So I talk a lot about that in a lot of episodes because I always say, it's important to make an unbelievably great, entertaining film. But if you make the greatest film in the world and you can't get an audience, then you've kind of wasted your time. You're going to enjoy your film. Your mother's going to enjoy your film, but nobody else is going to see it. So getting an audience is super important. But I want to focus specifically on the concept of audience. Because here's what happens with a lot of indie filmmakers. It's tough to make the film, but it's a huge struggle to get the film properly distributed and marketed to audiences, to release the movie. It's a big struggle. A lot of indie filmmakers, they just don't know how to navigate that process. And when they do, it's aggravating. They end up signing with a bad distributor sometimes, or not getting released properly, not getting marketed at all, not making any money with their films. And even worse, nobody even seeing their movies. So sometimes a filmmaker would say, okay, would I like to make money? Yeah, of course I would. But at the very least, I'm hoping that a lot of people at least watch my film so that, they're enjoyed and entertained by it, because that's the point of making it. So here's the thing. When you go through this distribution process, you are going to be up against a lot of rejection. When you go to find a distributor, most of them might not even talk to you or ghost you. Like, you're going to send your film to them and you're going to say, hey, I just made this great film. And a lot of them aren't going to react to you. They're going to, you'll probably do it by email, or maybe if you go to a film market, you'll meet with them in person. And they'll say, yeah, we'll look at it. And then most of them don't bother looking at it or don't get back to you, and they don't follow up. And you think, wait a second, aren't you in the business of finding and releasing good films? Why would you not want to take a look at my film and get back to me and follow up with me? And sometimes you wonder, because if they ghost you, meaning they don't even return your email or your meeting or anything like that, it means you're not even sure, number one, if they even watched your movie, and number two, whether or not they liked it if they watched it. You have no feedback at all. So that's a form of rejection, if you take it as rejection. It can be demoralizing, having worked so hard on making your film, sending it to somebody, they don't even take the time to watch it, and they're a distributor. So that's demoralizing, I agree. But don't feel too rejected, because it's kind of par for the course. I mean, it's sad that I'm even saying this, but it's sort of what happens in this industry. A lot of distributors who should be on the lookout for, new entertainment, new high quality films or whatever, entertaining films. And they don't have to be big budget. They just have to be entertaining. And I'm assuming your film is entertaining. They don't even bother responding to you. They ghost you. So right away you think, oh, is my film good? What's the problem? Maybe it's me. Maybe it's my movie. Maybe it's the industry. And you get kind of demoralized. All right. That's sort of step number one, which is the first step of rejection. And this episode's not about rejection. This episode's about audience, but I got to set the stage first. Level 2 would be streaming platforms. Now, in order to get onto a major streaming platform, you're going to need a distributor or an agent, somebody who's connected, because they're not going to take your product directly. I mean, there was a time when you could send your movie to a streamer directly, like a Netflix even, or Hulu or HBO Max. Any of these places used to accept submissions, but they don't anymore. You have to go through a legitimate distributor. So I just said, often you can't even get the attention of a legitimate distributor. But even if you were able to get it, and then they send it through, and then the streamers, they're not even looking for content anymore. They're in the business of providing entertaining content to their audiences, to their subscribers. And I'm talking subscription video on demand streamers. That's their business. All right. Their actual business is getting more subscribers, but the way they do that is to provide them with entertaining content. So you say, like, why would you not be interested in watching some new content? I just made this great new movie. It's available. I'm sending it to you. Why not have a look at it? If you don't like it, I get it, but at least give it a shot. Like, at least try, right? Not interested. Why? Because these days, most of them are just making their own content, like Netflix originals, that type of thing. Or if it's not some big star-driven, special effects-driven, or, Academy Award-winning movie, you're not going to hit their radar screen. They're just looking for this really big stuff for the most part. There's exceptions here or there. But generally speaking, they're not out buying indie content anymore. It's too bad. It's a problem. But again, so that's another form of, call it rejection. It's not really rejection. It's just their business model. But it's demoralizing because here you are, you want to be in front of their audiences and they're not interested in even looking at it. Number 3, how about film festivals? You're going to send your film, submit it, 20, 25 festivals, maybe more, maybe less. But, on average, that's what filmmakers do. They're very excited about their films. They go through the whole process. There's thousands of film festivals. I think last time I checked on Film Freeway, there was, well over 10,000 festivals. And if you add in the writing competitions, all this kind of stuff, probably 14 or 15,000. So there's no shortage of festivals. So you want to submit, you do all your homework, you try to figure out which ones are best, where you want to go if you got accepted. Lots of stuff that goes into festival submissions. And then, unless your film is, I was going to say exceptional, but I'm going to say most films are exceptional. Lucky for some reason or something like that. If you hit 10 to 15% acceptance rate at the festivals, you're doing well. So a lot of these festivals are going to reject you right away, just because there's so many submissions and they have only so many slots. So you're not going to get into every festival. So you feel demoralized by that. It's like, hey, wait a second. And they give you no feedback. It's not like, they give you the standard sort of rejection letter, which is, oh, your film's fantastic, but we didn't have enough room. And obviously, which is true. You can't take, if they get 5,000 submissions, they can only screen, 200 or 300 of them if on a big festival, maybe 100 on a small festival. So that's rejection too. So all of a sudden you're feeling demoralized. You can't get into a distributor. You can't get into a streaming platform. You can't get into a festival. And you're thinking, what the heck? Like, I just killed myself to make this great entertaining film. And I'm assuming, by the way, for the sake of this conversation, that it actually is a great entertaining film. All right, some of your films aren't going to be great and entertaining. We know that. But let's say you actually have a great entertaining film. That's what I'm assuming for the sake of this. And nobody wants to see it. Nobody's willing to even look at it. And you're not even sure the festivals took a look at it when they rejected it. Maybe they watched the first 5 minutes if you're lucky. But you don't know. You have no feedback. You have no feedback from the distributors, none from the streamers. So you're thinking, wow, that's really demoralizing. Like, I made this great film and I want people to see it. I would love to release it and monetize it, but at the very least, I would like people to see it. Like at least at a film festival, I want people to see it and enjoy it and give me feedback on it. And yet you come up short across the board on everything. So that's not nice. It's demoralizing and you can feel very upset about that. But here's the good news. Here's why. This is the reason I'm doing this episode. The good news is, at the end of the day, those things matter for some reasons, but not for a lot. I'm gonna come back to this, why it matters for that, but it doesn't really matter. What really matters is audience, having people watch your movie. Now, those are vehicles to get in front of audiences. All right, distributors are vehicles to get onto streaming platforms, and streaming platforms have audiences. So you're hoping to connect with a streaming platform so that they can put you in front of their audience. Festivals have audiences. They have people who watch the movies at their festivals. So they have audience. So that's why you're hoping to tap into their audiences, which would be really nice. I agree. All right. But here's the thing about an audience. They don't own the audience. The streaming platforms, they don't own the audience. These are just subscribers. They're allowed to watch outside of the streaming platform. Whether they do or not is another story we'll talk about in a few minutes. But festival goers, they go to lots of festivals, or they look at lots of streaming platforms, or they access material lots of other places. Festivals don't own the audience. They own it for the day of the screening. The streamer owns the subscription to their platform, but they don't own viewership. They don't own the fact that people are looking for good quality entertainment, and therefore, if you can figure out a way to get in front of those people and create awareness with them, then it's not about nobody's ever going to say, I'm not going to watch this movie because it's not on Netflix. Now, people are probably saying, yes, they will. Young people will. Because young people will say, hey, I spent $15 or $20 a month on my Netflix subscription, and therefore that's all I'm going to watch, because why would I spend some extra money when I've already got a Netflix subscription? And the answer is, if you truly actually want to watch something that is not on your streaming platform, then you will probably watch it if you really want to watch it. All right? Why do you think people have multiple subscriptions? I mean, I subscribe to almost all the platforms. Not because I want to pay a lot of money, is because I like a lot of the programming. Apple's got stuff that Netflix doesn't have, that Hulu's got stuff that Max doesn't have, and Max got stuff. Everybody's got something good. And if you hear about it and you want to watch what they have, then you need to go subscribe to their platform. Is it a pain in the butt? Yeah. Is it expensive? Yeah, because, you got to have all these subscriptions. But at the end of the day, if you're an audience person, which I'm a typical audience person who's seeking out good quality entertainment, then when I find it or I hear about it, then I'm willing to pay for it. Is everybody? No. Some people have limited budgets and they're not willing to go and have multiple subscriptions, or maybe won't want to do, say, transactional video on demand, to say just download one movie to watch it. Some people. So let's say, I'm going to just make up a statistic. Let's say that what I just said of people who are willing to have multiple subscriptions and watch what they want to watch, when they want to watch it on demand and are willing to pay for it, let's say that is 10% of people. I'm going to cut out 90% of the viewing audience. Let's just take, Netflix's audience. And just for easy numbers, let's call Netflix's audience 200 million subscribers worldwide. Let's say 90% of them are not willing to watch anything off of Netflix, which is, by the way, not true at all. We know that. Okay, I just want to demonstrate a point. Let's say it's only 10%. That's 20 million people, folks. That's 20 million people who are willing to say, if I find something else that I want to watch, I'm prepared to watch it and hopefully pay for it. You as an indie filmmaker who have completely been rejected by the festivals, by the distributors, by the streamers, maybe you can tap into that other 10% of viewers who are looking for something to watch. But the question is, how do you get their attention? How do you let them know that you have something that they want to watch? And where do you make it available for them to watch it? So that's distribution and marketing. All right. So you're going to have to create you're going to have to put it up onto some platform that makes it accessible. But what I'm talking about is, let's just talk about transactional video on demand. And I know a lot of people listening to this are saying, oh, Jeff, you're crazy. It's dead. It's never going to be alive again. Everybody's just subscription or AVOD, advertising, free watching with ads. Transactional's dead. And I say, no, I don't believe that. I do not believe it's dead for something that somebody wants to watch and it's exclusively only available on transactional. Now, I teach a lot of young people, students. Students always say to me, I can't afford $5 to watch a movie. Let's say you make this great movie, you put it onto a transactional platform and you charge $5, and we'll talk about marketing in a second, how to get their awareness to send them to that platform. And that's the only place this is available. And 90% of the world isn't going to care. They're not going to pay attention, but maybe 10% will, 1 out of 10. It might even be 1%. All right, but let's use 10% to discuss this. All right, so you're going to send them there, $5. So all my students say, I'm not paying $5. I just spent $20 a month on Netflix and I'm getting way, way more content. This is one thing for $5. And I say, what's in your hand right there? That looks like a cup of Starbucks coffee. Oh, that's a chai latte, skinny chai latte. That cost you $6 or $7, depending on if it's got a flavor or something in it. You had no problem doing that. And guess what? You do that every single day. You might do it twice a day. How come all of a sudden you can spend $5 on a cup of coffee, but you can't spend it on a feature film that is really good, really entertaining, and costs a heck of a lot more to make than a cup of coffee with a lot more heart in it? So people can't afford it, all right? They say they can't, and they say they wouldn't, but they actually can. The question is, how do you entice them enough to want to spend the money, all right? So I don't believe that they can't afford it. Look at, obviously there's some people in the world who can't afford it, but how is it that, you can charge $5, $6, $7 for a cup of coffee? Nobody has an issue with it. Nobody expects anything of value to be for free other than the arts. It's amazing how that's happened. I don't know how that happened. People think, okay, I got to pay $5 for a cup of coffee and $5 for this really good muffin. No problem. Because it's tangible, it's an item. But why don't they say I got to pay $5 for a movie, or for, $1 for a song or something like that? This is stuff that artists have, labored over, and it's not easy to do this. But yet everybody struggles with that concept because the way we've moved distribution, I don't agree with it. I think that there's a lot of value especially to a movie, and it shouldn't be a problem to pay $5. But I'm smart enough and experienced enough to know that a lot of people won't do it. So that's why I'm saying, let's say 10% of people will do it if they know about it. If they know about it and they're excited about it and enticed enough to want to do it, and you make it easy enough for them to do it. So here's what I'm saying about audience. This is who you're going after at the end of the day. When you're making a movie, you got to be focused on the audience. You got to be focused on, there's 10% of the viewing audience out there that might be willing to watch this movie and might be willing to pay for it. You can't be demoralized by the fact that you're not going to get onto Netflix. You can't be demoralized when you get rejected by a bunch of film festivals, or when distributors ghost you. I know it's demoralizing, but try not to be demoralized about that. I'll tell you when you should be demoralized, and you shouldn't even be for this, is when people who watch the movie say they don't like it, or that they're not going to recommend it to somebody else. And again, it's not demoralizing. Everybody's got an opinion. But if you can get your movie in front of people, and hopefully paying people, and they say they like it and willing to tell other people, that's the core of distribution at the end of the day. And like, as I said, streamers and festivals don't own audiences. They just have access to them because they're offering a lot of content in an organized way, which I think is wonderful. But it's not precluding you from going to those people and having them watch your movie for $5. And again, I'm using that number arbitrarily. But you got to make them aware of it, which is marketing. And so the biggest disconnect in the film business, in the indie film business, which I talk about all the time, is that a filmmaker will spend lots and lots of time, energy, money, and passion on creating their film and nothing on marketing it. They just don't want to talk about marketing or putting it in front of audiences. So I'm saying to you filmmakers, look, once you get to that point where you're all demoralized about having all this rejection, always remember that there are people out there who actually would be excited to watch your film and probably would pay to watch it if you did a good marketing campaign to let them know that the film's available, and put your film, on any type of transactional platform. You can always get it onto a transactional platform. You can even get it on your own website if you have to, at very least. Like at the very worst case scenario, just create a website, put your film on. I've known filmmakers who have done this, all right? And you can drive the audience there, and use like a standard payment, like Stripe or something like that as a standard payment module. That's the very worst case scenario. But the tough part is driving the audience there to see it, all right? It's creating awareness and enticing them to want to see your movie. If you're demoralized about everybody rejecting your movie, take a step back, look in the mirror, and realize that the reason you got there is because you weren't willing to do what it takes to actually get the audience, which is market to them. Now, if you look at all these other places, okay, film festivals, well-established festivals, they don't need to do much marketing anymore. Toronto, Cannes, Sundance, these festivals are iconic. They've been around. But all these other little festivals, they come and go. If they don't do marketing, they don't let filmmakers know about them, they come and go, they disappear. Streaming platforms, yeah. The big ones, it didn't start automatically. They had to build over years and years and years audiences. Studios had to build audiences over years. I mean, it happened, a century ago when they first started, but it didn't, you don't snap your fingers and the audience comes. You have to build, you have to market, you have to create audience awareness. You still have to advertise. Those people still do advertising and when they spend a lot on big shows in order to attract audiences. That's what it's all about. So you're a little guy, you got one movie, it's good. How do you get the audience attention? It's super, super, super difficult. All right. But if you don't have a marketing campaign and you don't think about who your audience is, how you're going to attract them, and give it a real shot the way you did making the movie, then you almost have no chance. I mean, that's the problem. That's the disconnect, is that it's almost impossible. Like, you'd have to have some stroke of lightning, lucky event, going viral or something like that to get you over the top, because you haven't put any effort into creating the attention of the audience. And I'm telling you, when we started this episode, I said it's about audience. Don't worry about the fact that you don't control and own that audience. Nobody does. Think about how you're going to connect with that audience. And I know as filmmakers, you don't want to think about it. You don't want to talk about it. You just want to talk about making the movie. And the attraction of getting it on a big streaming platform, obviously, is you don't have to do any marketing. They have the audience already. The attraction of getting it in a festival, they already have the audience. Obviously, that's the attraction. That's why you try to get distributors. That's why you try to get streaming platforms. That's why you try for it, because they have the audience that you want. But if they say, no, sorry, we're not letting you in the door, it doesn't mean it's over. It means now you're just going to have to try a little harder, and you're going to have to try to tap into that audience yourself. Now, it's really, really, really difficult to do that. I know, I do it all the time. It's what we call self-distribution, all right? Releasing the movie yourself, marketing the movie yourself. But I am telling you, more and more these days, that is the direction that distribution has gone in. And unfortunately, for better or worse, the distribution system is failing a lot of indie filmmakers. They're just not getting their films in front of audiences the way they should, and audiences don't know about it. So part of being an indie filmmaker now is kind of being aware and understanding that you're going to have to probably go it alone on the marketing side. Now, I'm going to do a little pitch for my platform because, and I didn't do this episode for this reason, but I just want to let you know. Doing that is really tough for 3 reasons. One is you generally don't even know how to do it. Like, even if you wanted to do it, you don't know how to do it because it takes skills to figure out how to do marketing. 2, you generally don't want to do it. You're a filmmaker and you didn't sign up to do marketing. You signed up to do filmmaking. So even if you knew how to do it, you actually have no desire to do it. And number 3, you probably have no resources to do it. You haven't raised any money because marketing costs money. You might be doing a paid social media campaign, maybe some advertising, paid social media influencers, something like that. It's not free, just the way filmmaking is not free. So for those 3 reasons, you might be stuck. All right. The 3rd reason, the money, you're going to need to access some money in order to create awareness. I mean, there's only so much you can do for free, say on social media and publicity. All right. You can work it hard and hard and hard, but it helps when you have a budget to work with. All right. The other 2 things, you got to find people who maybe are better at it than you are, maybe know what they're doing and can help you out. And that's what they do for a living. They don't make films, they market films. When I say I'm going to plug the indie film community, that's what we do. we help filmmakers do the things they don't want to do. All the business stuff, like in the making the films, and all the distribution and marketing, they just don't want to do it. And even if they did want to do it, they kind of don't know how to do it. And there's no scale. So, doing one marketing campaign is way more expensive than doing, say, 100. So what the indie film community is basically the distribution, marketing, and business department, the way a film studio would have it for indie filmmakers. That's all it is. It's basically saying, hey, indie filmmakers, you're a one-time, one-off film, so you can't afford to have a legal department, you can't afford to have a marketing department, you can't afford to have an accounting department and finance, but we have this department that we're supporting lots of filmmakers. So we can help you with that. Or if you're conscientious, you should do it yourself. But the bottom line is this, and here's why I wanted to do this episode. If somebody says to you, sorry, I'm not going to accept your film to a festival, or I'm not going to put you on this streaming platform, or I'm not going to watch your film as a distributor, and it's over for you, don't be a filmmaker, because it's going to happen, all right? It's going to be really upsetting and demoralizing, but it's going to happen. So you need to know that when that happens, it's not over, it's just beginning, because they don't own the audience. The audience is there. You're just going to have to do more work to connect to it. But if you got something that the audience wants to see and you let them know about it properly, then hopefully you will be able to bypass all of that BS and all of that demoralization and get to the audience. It's just going to be a heck of a lot of work. So good luck. See you next time.